this one, as I said, is not necessarily a news article per se, but it is news articles. It is. And it's back in the Birmingham Commonwealth Games, and along with New York. So I'm going to go visit those two things. I'm going to show you pictures, and I want to talk about these things. So here it is. Here's the picture from the Commonwealth Games. And there you go. This might be a little hard for just our audio audience because of the fact that I'm doing pictures rather than reading a story. But this picture, it's a picture of a giant bull. A giant bull. And you go, wait, a giant bull? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a giant bull. And members of the public can now view the bull in Century Square. And they have it there. And it's something like, what is it, 10 feet tall? Something like that, maybe bigger than that. I'm trying to forget the dimensions here. But it was during the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games there in Birmingham. Now, if you've ever watched the opening ceremonies, I generally don't watch opening ceremonies. I'm one of those people, I don't watch Olympics. I really don't. I know when they come, people are like, hey, you watch this team get this. I'm like, I really don't care. I really don't. I used to care a little bit more when I was in wrestling in University High School. I stayed up till like 2:30 in the morning, or it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, looking for the gold medal match. Because Canada, Daniel Legally was fighting for the gold medal at the time, so I wanted to see that. It was just on really late. But the opening ceremonies are usually quite the spectacle. Now, in this one, they have their opening ceremony because with their ceremony, they had this giant bull statue that came out. That's what they did. They had this giant bull statue. Now, what does that have to do with anything? Now, I want to go through just a couple of the pictures here. For the next picture, you get a little bit of a different look there. So it's a giant bull, glows red eyes, the whole bit. That's what you're seeing. That's what it actually is. And when it was brought out by women who are chained to it. So the women are dragging this behind them. Now, the symbolism, according to the artist, is supposed to be about industrialism, kind of thing. So the bull represents industrial and how it actually flourished on the backs of women and that kind of thing. And if you want to go there's some truth if you study history. You come out of the Great Depression, and what broke the Great Depression was World War II. They always say there's nothing better for an economy than a good war. And because all the men were off at war, who was left to work the factories? And that was women. So they have this kind of idea that, yeah, they're dragging it. Now, if the bull just symbolized an oppressive force, then that would be fine. But they do more to it. And I just want to show you a couple of pictures here. Now, here's a picture of you've got a black woman before the bull. And she's offering up her hands. And it actually is, whether people want to accept this or not, but it's a position of worship. You've probably seen this if you've attended churches where people are more raise their hands kind of thing. That's what she's doing to it. And that's not me reading into it either. This is exactly what the artist wanted to depict. That the people are coming to appease the bull, are coming to appease it, to bring almost worship to it. There's the picture of them dragging it out. You can, if you're one of our video audience, there it is. But it's the next picture I want to show this. Here's where you see they're all bowing down in front of it. Is what they're doing. They are. They're all kneeling in front of it, holding up torches, holding up lights to it. This is appeasing. If I didn't tell you what was going on, that this was a ceremony to to open the Commonwealth Games, and I just showed you these pictures, you would not be able to depict between it and worship of this picture. It really is. You really can't tell the difference. It looks like they have built a god, and they've come and they're worshiping it. And that's really what the symbolism is. And some they may want to argue, well, it's the symbolism of Industrialism. Well, if that's the case, that the bull just symbolized industrialism, and then you can kind of grasp that the women carrying it out, saying that the women are the ones who, back in during the wars, were the ones who carried industrialism on their back, that would be fine. But then you go off to this idea that they've got to appease this bull. How do you appease industrialism? You can't. So it's become more than that. It's become worship. And then you've got this woman riding the bull. That's what you have, is they're now there. So she's now riding the bull. A better picture of it here. She's riding the bull. This last picture. And you can even see a woman in the picture here. In this, where she's coming up and she's in a prayer stance. And what I mean by that, she's got her hands folded in front of her. There's no hiding what this is. This is. And then you can look in the book of Revelation. It actually talks about the fact that there's a woman riding a bull. A woman riding a bull. Although this seems like it's just an opening ceremony. That's all it is. It's just an opening ceremony. It is not. There's something more going on. And what is happening here is there really is. It's almost like they're building a god for themselves. And that's what they've done. Like I said, if it was just a case of the fact that they were just, doing symbols for industrialism, that would be fine. But it's not. And if you look, it's just, the imagery is so there. Now, it's not exact, because they're riding a bull. But Revelation 17 says this. This is, "Then the angel carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and there I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered with blasphemous names and had 7 heads and 10 horns." See, it's just the imagery. You can't miss it. No, it's not exact fit. This is not what is This is not what's happening in Revelation. But when a Christian sees these things, our minds should be drawn back to this kind of thing, saying, wait a minute, what's going on here? They're opening it up to this. It's becoming mainstream. It's becoming acceptable. Now, why did I bring that up? Because I want to show you a statue from New York. Here it is. There's the statue from New York. Now, it is a picture of it's a statue, so don't think definition here, of a naked woman. Now, when I say naked, think Barbie doll naked, no definitions, no nothing. So a naked woman with horns coming out of her head, circular horns coming out of her head, and tentacles for arms, and it's I think it's a justice collar around her neck, kind of thing. This is one that if you're our audio audience, I'm going to encourage you to actually go and just watch this just to get the idea of some of the pictures. And this picture is supposed to represent Ruth Bader, whatever her name was. Sorry, I got it. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She died here a while back. She was one of the chief justices appointed by Obama. So she died. So they make this statue. And this is what it is. It's a naked woman with tentacle arms, horns on her head. It's kind of what it looks like. And a justice thing. And the statue is called Now. That's what it's called. It's called Now. And before, I'm going to tell you what it's about here in a minute. But let me get to another picture here, because I want to compare it here. Here it is. It's on the courthouse in New York City. Now, what is most interesting about this, there's a couple of things that I draw my conclusion really quickly here, is the fact that it's next to other statues of justices. And but the other statues, one, they're made out of stone. She's made out of bronze, it almost looks like. 2, the statues that are there are statues of people. And what I mean by that is they're sculptures of people. Think like Michelangelo's David, except clothing. So they're wearing robes. But then she is a statue of something else. And I just want to bring up the third picture. And this third picture shows it, because the two close to each other. you see her a little bit better, starts a little better. You see the horns out of the head. You see the tentacles for arms, the tentacles for legs. So there's no legs, tentacles. And it's juxtaposed next to one of the other statues that is there, which is a statue of a man. And he's wearing kind of like a Roman toga, so like the old kind of Justice Senates. But it's a full man. So it's like this abstract art piece. And as I said, the artist called it Now. The artist called it Now is what they called it. But what does it actually represent? Well, as I said, it represented Ruth Bader Ginsburg as she served on the court. And it's really an homage, a statue that is an homage to abortion. That's why it's called Now. The artist will even tell you this, that it's called Now. And they're like, well, why? Because Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she was a fighter for women's rights. She was a fighter for abortion rights. And with all this, like Roe v. Wade being overturned, this statue is to represent the need for this, the fight for it. So this is really, it's literally a statue that is to celebrate the murder of innocent children in the womb, where the vast majority, 99% of them, are done for the convenience of somebody else, that they're dead. And this statue is to commemorate that. Whether they want to get around it or not, they try to argue it otherwise, but the author calls it Now, and they're talking about the need for abortion rights, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a fighter for abortion rights. The statue that looks nothing like her. Now, if you want to make a statue of her, whatever. But the statue looks nothing like her. It looks like almost like Medusa, but not quite. Medusa had snake hairs. But it looks like a goddess that they would bow down and worship. And that's the thing that I'm drawing these two things together. The bull from the Commonwealth Games and this statue called Now, they look like ancient gods being remade that people are bowing down to worship towards. Now, this one of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, it's not really of her. The statue Now is going to be touring. It's going to be taken around. I don't know what the final destination is, but for now it's on the courthouse of in New York City. But it's the worship of false gods. And I think it's a depiction of it. And why is this so important? Because you wonder how in the book of Revelation, it says that the false prophet will make an image of the beast, and people will bow down and worship it. And you wonder, well, how would that be? We don't live in a culture anymore where you build gods and people will bow down to it. And what you're seeing is a return to this. As I said, the picture of the bull, you literally have them bowing down to. You got one woman there trying to worship the beast until she's riding it, and then you see somebody else coming in, and they're flying with hands in a prayer motion. And now you've got this statue, which looks nothing like it actually is, but it looks nothing more than a pagan statue of a goddess. I don't know why you would consider that on the House of Justice. Like, look, you may argue against a statue of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and you can do that. But if you're going to put a statue of her next to the others, it should look like the others. It should match the others. Not this atrocity, not this abomination. And literally it is. This is how people are returning to the false gods. Paganism on the rise, witchcraft on the rise, New Ageism, although it's not really New Ageism, it's just a repackaged deal, on the rise, and it's all around us. That's what you see here. It's an absolute abomination. And yet they call it art. It's not art. It's the worship of false idols, is what it is. And it's coming more and more. It's appearing more and more. And people are being prepared for it. And all this really shows is that the time of the return of Christ is drawing closely. More and more close. That is what it shows. I hope you enjoyed the content. Hope you enjoyed that segment. Note that is just a segment of the full episode. If you would like to enjoy the full episode, click the link up there, or you can get the podcast in any podcast app. Click there. If you'd like to help me out, you can subscribe, share, like. That just helps get the word out. You can click the one right there. You click that, you give a help out. I thank you for joining me, and may you build on the foundation of Jesus Christ.